Welcome to Nightmare Story. I'm Lucas, your guide through the shadows. Here the night is quiet, but never safe. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and follow me into the places where forgotten footsteps echo and old fears wake beneath the darkness. This is where sleep meets terror. Are you ready? Tonight we step into the quiet hum of your van's engine as the last glow of cell service blinks away behind you, swallowed by a stretch of highway that feels just a little too empty for this hour. The air outside is cool, brushing against the metal shell of your home on wheels as you coast toward a national park people swear is beautiful. Though strangely, no one ever seems to show you their photos from it. You breathe in slow, taking in the scent of old upholstery and that lavender sleep spray you tell yourself actually works. Trees rise on both sides of the road, dark as poured ink, and for a moment you think you see movement between the trunks. Probably just a deer. Or, something else with antlers and an opinion. Hard to tell from this distance. You're doing this trip because you need space, adventure, maybe a little peace, and definitely not because your best friend said a solo national park van trip is how horror movies start. You smile at the memory, even as a tiny shiver slides down your spine. A relaxing bedtime story, sure, though in fairness, you probably won't survive this one. But hey, no pressure. Before we go deeper, if you genuinely enjoy my stories, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Now settle in, tuck your blanket a little closer, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The road narrows as you drive deeper into the park boundary, where the trees lean over the asphalt like tall, judgmental aunties trying to see what you're up to. Your headlights sweep across empty picnic pull-offs, lonely trailheads, and old wooden signs whose letters have been chewed up by weather and time. You can almost imagine them whispering to each other as you pass. The van rumbles gently, a comforting sound, though it doesn't compete with the strangely distant echo of something moving in the woods, too heavy for an animal, too soft for a person. The deeper you go, the more the world compresses into a corridor of darkness and pale yellow light. You try your signal again. Nothing. A bold no service just smirks at you from the phone screen. There's a small, sarcastic part of your brain that says, "Great, fantastic, perfect conditions for a national park disappearance." Another part of your brain replies, "SHHH, we're trying to relax." You adjust in your driver's seat, the fabric squeaking in a way that sounds suspiciously like protest. Outside, the tree line gets denser, almost unnaturally so, like the forest has been taking growth hormones. A trail map kiosk appears at the side of the road. You slow a little. It's illuminated by a single flickering bulb, the kind that would absolutely not pass safety inspection, but is on brand for ominous government-maintained wilderness. You park the van just long enough to get out and stretch your legs. The air here is cooler than you expected, carrying the faint metallic scent of cold earth. Maybe rain is coming. Maybe something else is. Your shoes crunch on gravel as you walk toward the map board. The laminated surface is cracked, peeling slightly at the corners, and several of the trails are marked with faded red stickers. You assume that means closed or unsafe, or please don't walk here unless you enjoy being lost forever. A government signage tends to be subtle like that. A note taped to the bottom, yellowed and curling at the edges, catches your eye. Missing persons bulletin. 3 faces. 3 dates. 3 last known locations. All within this park. all within the last 2 summers. You swallow quietly because even your breath feels too loud here and step back toward the van. The forest behind you creaks, a slow bending of a branch or maybe something stepping where it shouldn't. You glance over your shoulder. Nothing moves, or more accurately, nothing moves now. Inside the van, the interior lights glow warm and soft. You shut the door with a muffled thud, and for a moment, the world feels small again, contained, almost cozy. Your bed in the back is neatly made. Your little kitchenette gleams with the smugness of a freshly wiped counter, and the string lights taped to the cabinet edges give off a gentle amber sparkle. You exhale, tension easing. Then you notice the condensation on the inside of the windshield. Not unusual, temperature differences, breath, whatever. Except the pattern looks wrong, almost like streaks sliding downward from the outside. Except you were just outside, and the glass was dry. You're very sure of that. You lean closer, squinting. The streaks are faint, thin, curved slightly. Not drips, not smudges, almost like finger trails. You blink once, twice. When you look again, the glass is clean, perfectly clean. No streaks, no trails, nothing that suggests someone or something dragged fingers down your windshield while you weren't looking. You tell yourself it must have been the angle of your light, a trick, a shadow, nothing concerning at all. It does nothing for the goosebumps rising on your arms. You slide into the driver's seat again, rubbing your palms against your thighs, as if friction alone could warm the air. You start driving once more, letting the soft rumble quiet your thoughts. The van hums along the road, and each passing mile feels like it carries you deeper into a place that doesn't quite want you to map it. Up ahead, a deer stands in the middle of the road. At least, you think it's a deer. It's large, too large, actually. Its legs are long and angled slightly wrong, like someone stretched them. The head is tilted, listening. Its eyes shine, not with the typical red or white reflection, but a dull, flat glow you can't quite place. You slow the van. The creature doesn't move. It just watches you. You flick your high beams. It steps backward. Not away. Not turning. Just one precise, silent step, like a puppet pulled at the wrong joint. Then, impossibly smoothly, it disappears into the tree line without a sound. No crackling leaves, no snapping twigs, no hoofbeats, nothing. You try a calming breath. You fail, but you give yourself credit for the attempt. You continue forward, the van feeling suddenly much smaller than before. Every shadow outside seems to stretch toward you. You reassure yourself with a whisper. It was just a deer. A very weird deer with spooky chiropractor problems, but still. 15 minutes pass. Then 20. Then the road curves into a long descending slope, the forest thickening in a way that suggests the world is trying to close behind you. And then, a sign. Hand-painted, crooked, old. Hanging from a bent metal pole. Campground ahead, 1 mile. Check-in required. The reassuring thing about this sign is that humans obviously put it here. The less reassuring thing is that it looks like the humans who put it here haven't been around in a while. You picture the ranger station ahead, hopefully with lights, maybe even a map that isn't taped together like a hostage situation. You drive on. Then your headlights sweep over something on the right shoulder. A van. Old, faded blue. Parked slightly askew, like its owner pulled over in a hurry. You slow automatically. There's no one inside. The windows are fogged from the inside. The driver's side door is cracked open an inch. A blanket hangs half out of the side window, fluttering slightly in the night breeze. You stop next to it, heart thumping. Your van idles softly. For a moment, you swear you can hear breathing. Not yours. From their van. And then, the blanket stops moving. Just stops. Frozen mid-hang, like the air itself forgot how wind works. You put your van back into gear. You drive. Quickly. You tell yourself you're not scared. You're just being efficient. Efficient is good. Efficient people survive scary stories sometimes. The trees thin enough for the moon to peek through. The campground entrance appears. A wooden archway, dark and welcoming in the way abandoned carnival rides are welcoming. You pull in, gravel crunching under your tires, and follow a narrow loop lined with campsites. Each one is empty. Every single campsite. Every fire pit cold. Every picnic table unclaimed. Except, far at the back, one campsite flickers with a faint lantern light. At least, it looks like lantern light. Warm orange. Swaying slightly. You pull toward it, curious, relieved, unsettled. And then the light blows out. Instantly. Like someone pinched the flame between their fingers. You stop the van. You wait. The forest holds its breath. Then, a soft knock on your back door. The knock is so soft you almost convince yourself it didn't happen. Just a branch falling, or your imagination stretching its legs, or maybe your van settling in the cool night air. But then it comes again, a slow, deliberate tap-tap. Not urgent, not frantic, just patient, which is somehow worse. Your breath stills in your throat. You don't move, you don't blink. You swear even your heartbeat tries to quiet itself, like your insides are attempting stealth mode. The back door of the van, the one leading directly to your bed, sits only a few feet behind you. You can't see it from the driver's seat, and suddenly that feels like a very inconvenient design flaw. A third knock. A little firmer. A little more certain you're awake now. You whisper to yourself, barely audible, nope. Just nope. Your hand drifts toward your keys, ready to start the engine, ready to leave whatever polite nocturnal visitor this is behind. But something stops you, not fear exactly, more like a strange pull of curiosity mixed with the stubborn van life logic of. Maybe it's someone who needs help. After all, you did see that abandoned van on the road. Maybe whoever owned it is wandering around. Maybe they're cold. Maybe they're injured. Maybe they're... The knock becomes a slow, dragging sound. Not scratching, not clawing, just dragging, like fingertips slowly pulling downward across metal. You finally turn around. Nothing. Just your darkened living space, lit only by the warm glow of the overhead van light. The curtains at the back door sway slightly, as if something outside gently brushed them. You stare long enough for your eyes to water, trying to detect a silhouette, a shadow, anything. Then, a whisper, a voice, barely audible, right against the back door. Hello. You freeze. It sounds human. Not distorted. Not monstrous. Just small. And tired. And very, very close. You swallow. Are you okay? You call out, keeping your voice steady despite the tight coil in your chest. A silence. Then the whisper again, just a little louder. A cold. Your breath fogs the air inside the van. A strain. It wasn't that cold a moment ago. You lean forward and flick on your rear exterior light. A soft amber glow spills out from the little bulb mounted above the back door. Weak, but enough to illuminate the ground behind your van. You slide to the back and stop with your hand hovering above the lock. Your pulse thrums in your palms. You take a slow breath and lift the curtain by a few inches. The light outside flickers, then steadies. And that's when you see nothing. No person. No footprints. No movement. Just a wide circle of undisturbed dirt and dry pine needles glowing under the weak amber light. You glance at the ground directly behind the van. Still nothing. But the whisper, it came from inches away. You drop the curtain, and something taps the glass again. Not the door. The window. Right next to your face. You jolt backward so fast you hit your elbow on a cabinet. Your mind races, heart hammering loud enough to scare wildlife several states over. You force yourself to look again, slowly, peeling the curtain upward just enough to see. The window is fogged over. From the outside, a fresh smear on the condensation curves downward, like a single fingertip dragged through mist. But again, nobody is there. You back away, pulse thudding in your ears. Okay, time to go. Not walk. Not jog. Not politely ask permission from ghosts or cryptids. Just G.O. You lunge into the driver's seat, jam the key into the ignition, and start the engine. The van roars to life, headlights washing over empty campsites and twisted shadows. Gravel sprays behind you as you steer out of the loop. As you drive, something prickles at the edges of your awareness. You check your side mirror. Frozen. Because there, in the mirror, something stands at the edge of the campsite road. Tall, still, unmoving, just barely human-shaped. Your chest tightens. You blink. It vanishes. Your breath rushes out in a shaky burst. You keep driving, hands clamped on the wheel. But after only a minute, the headlights catch something on the side of the road. A sign. Metal. Rusty. Barely hanging on its post. It reads, "Visitor check-in, 0.3 miles. INGRS available 24 hours. You hesitate. Someone should be there. Someone human. Someone who can tell you whether you imagined everything." You pull in. The ranger station sits near the tree line, a squat wooden building with 2 windows glowing a pale yellow. A radio antenna leans slightly on the roof. There's a truck parked out front, paint flaking, the hood dusty. The porch light buzzes overhead like a tired wasp. You park. Engine idling. You stare at the building, waiting for any sign of life. Nothing moves inside. Still, the lights are on. That's something. You take a breath, slide out of the van, and step onto the gravel. The night air is colder here, the kind of cold that feels intentional, like it gathers around you instead of simply existing. You climb the 3 porch steps and tap the door. No answer. You knock again, louder. Silence. You try the handle. It turns easily. The door creaks open into a small room that smells faintly of pine cleaner and old coffee. A desk sits in the center, a logbook half open. A thermos lies on its side, a cold puddle of coffee dripping down the wood grain. "Hello," you call out. Your voice sounds too loud in the tiny building. You step inside. The radio on the wall is on, but crackling faintly, like someone's breathing on the other end. Slow, steady, inhumanly rhythmic. The hairs on your arms lift. You back toward the door. A floorboard creaks behind you. Very slowly, you turn. At the end of the short hallway, something stands. Or someone. A ranger. Broad shoulders. Uniform. Hat pulled low enough to cast their face in shadow. "Sir," you manage, "are you?" The ranger lifts their head, and the face beneath the brim is wrong. Not grotesque, not bloody, just wrong. Too smooth in some places, too stretched in others. Like someone wearing a face they haven't finished adjusting. The ranger tilts their head. Once, twice, almost curious. Then, in a voice that sounds like wind forced through a hollow log, they say, "You shouldn't be here." The hallway light flickers. The radio crackles louder, and the ranger takes one slow step forward. The ranger's boot touches the floor with a soft thud, too soft for someone that's solid, too quiet for the heavy-looking tread. You instinctively step back, your shoulder brushing the partially open door behind you. The wooden frame feels like the only real thing in the room, warm, solid, human-made. Everything else suddenly feels a little too staged, like the world is holding its breath again, waiting to see what you'll do next. "You shouldn't be here." The voice swirls again, a hollow tunnel of sound, as if dragged up from somewhere deep in the earth rather than spoken by lungs. Your mouth goes dry, I'm just passing through. I saw your light on. The ranger tilts their head further, past the angle a human neck should comfortably go. It's subtle, but enough to send a thread of ice down your spine. From this angle, their face looks stretched, like the skin remembers different bones beneath it. Another step. You grip the doorknob behind you without looking, fingers fumbling. You try to pull the door open more, but it sticks for a beat, just long enough for panic to tap your ribs like a knuckle. Then it gives. Cold night air rushes in behind you. You step backward into the dark, never taking your eyes off the ranger. They stop at the threshold, boots at the edge of the floorboards, like there's an invisible line they won't cross. Their shadow stretches far too long across the floor, reaching toward you like a hand. Get in the van. Leave now. You do exactly that. You pivot, jogging across the gravel faster than you thought your half-asleep legs could manage. The stones crunch loudly, too loudly, you think, but at least they mask your heartbeat. The porch light flickers as you pass under it, buzzing once like something exhaling. You yank open the van door, slam it behind you, and lock every latch, every hinge, every pointless little clasp you added for extra privacy. Your fingers shake as they grip the wheel. The ranger is still at the doorway. Still watching. Not moving. Not pursuing. Just standing there like a tall, unnaturally patient statue, wearing a uniform. You start the van. The engine coughs awake, and the headlights spill across the station. The figure doesn't flinch, doesn't shield their eyes. The light just seems to slide over them. You put the van in drive. You pull out of the lot. Only when the station disappears behind the tree line does your breath finally release from your chest. You suck in new air too quickly and cough, gripping the wheel tighter. The road is empty again. Wide. Dark. Your headlights stretch out into it like you're trying to find an exit in a labyrinth that keeps gently rearranging itself behind your back. You steal one glance at your mirror. Nothing. No ranger. No silhouette. No long shadow. But the forest feels different now, denser, heavier, as if the trees have shifted closer to the asphalt. Their branches hang low enough you can almost imagine fingers trailing down from them. After a few minutes, your heartbeat steadies. The familiar hum of the van helps, along with the faint clatter of your mug rolling somewhere in the back, because you absolutely forgot to secure it before fleeing the uncanny park staff. A shaky laugh escapes you. Your first joke in what feels like centuries. If I live through this, I'm never skipping campground reviews again. You breathe out. Then your headlights hit something. A shape. Right in the middle of the road. Your foot slams the brake before you consciously register what it is. Dust swirls. The van lurches. Your seatbelt digs into your shoulder. Ahead, a person stands with their back to you. Not moving. Just standing. Your heart crawls upward, lodging in your throat. They're wearing a jacket, hiking boots. A backpack hangs slightly off one shoulder. They look so normal that for one irrational second you think, oh, a lost hiker. Perfect. Except the backpack is ripped down the side. The jacket sleeve is shredded, and the person's arms hang too loosely, like the joints aren't aligned. You honk. Once. A short, warning beep. They don't turn. You tap the horn again. Still nothing. You crack your window an inch. Hey, are you okay? The figure's head tilts slowly. Not around to face you. Just tilts. Like they're listening to something behind them. Something in the trees, not to you. Then you hear it. A rustling. Not wind. Not an animal. Something moving through the brush with intention. The figure's head tilts a little further. Your breath stutters. You put the van in reverse. Their head snaps upright. They turn. And their face. It's blank. Not featureless, just emptied. Eyes distant. Mouth slack. Expression carved away like someone scooped it out and left only the outline of a person. They take one unsteady step toward you. That's enough. You reverse so fast you feel the tires skid. You spin the van around and floor it back the way you came, headlights shaking with each bump in the road. You don't check the mirror, not because you're brave, but because you're absolutely not prepared to see anything following you at the speed of bad decisions. A few minutes blur past. Your pulse is still slamming through your chest when the road widens again into that same three-way split you passed earlier. But it shouldn't be here. You haven't driven long enough. This intersection should be miles back. You know that. The sign in the center stands crooked, just as before. Overlook Ridge, 5 miles. Campground Loop. Check-in station. You stop. You swallow hard. Either you're losing your sense of distance, or the road is folding in on itself. A faint tapping sound starts behind you. You freeze. Not again. Not the van. Not the windows. This time it's different, lighter, rhythmic, coming from the roof. Tap, tap, tap. Something is walking up there. Carefully, slowly, pacing. You shut off the headlights. Darkness swallows the van. The tapping pauses. Your breath grows thin. You wait. Then, a soft shift of weight. A scrape of something dragging lightly across metal. A single, deliberate step. Right above you. The metal above your head dips with the slightest flex, just enough for a tiny groan to escape the van's frame. You try not to breathe. You try not to even think loudly. Whatever is on the roof moves with unsettling precision, too slow for an animal, too controlled for a human. Each step spreads its weight carefully, like it's feeling for hollow spots, testing where you are beneath it. Tap. Pause. Drag. Tap. Your fingers grip the steering wheel so tightly your knuckles ache. The van is dark, silent, sealed, but it suddenly feels more like a tin can than a home. Every inch of metal around you becomes a liability, every window a possible face away. You swallow, or attempt to. Your throat is too tight. Another step, right above the driver's seat now. You can almost picture it, some shape crouched low, listening for the shift of your breath. Nope, you whisper under your breath, barely audible. Mega nope, ultra nope. A small joke, sure, but it doesn't help nearly as much as it usually would. The thing stops moving. The silence is somehow worse. Then, a slow, deliberate exhale drifts down from the roof. You freeze. You're not imagining it. You're not mishearing wind. Something up there is breathing. And it's close. Your brain does a dozen calculations at once. If you start the engine, the vibration might startle it. If you stay still, it might think you're not here. If you turn the lights on, you might get a look at it. And that's definitely not on the wish list tonight. You decide on the middle option. A stillness. Quiet. Pretending you're part of the furniture. You match your breaths to the faint ticking of the cooling engine, trying not to tremble. Then the breathing above you shifts. It lowers, as if something is flattening itself, pressing against the roof to listen. You stiffen as a soft creaking sound spreads across the metal, like palms, or something shaped like palms, exploring the curvature of the roof. It moves toward the windshield, and you realize with sudden horror, it's heading toward the front, toward the glass, toward where it can look down at you. Your hand darts to the ignition. You twist. The van roars awake. Instantly, the weight on the roof scrambles. It's not a smooth movement this time. It scutters too fast, too sharp, like a handful of limbs firing at once. Your headlights snap on. A blur leaps off the van, a shape bounding into the trees with unnatural speed. You don't catch a full glimpse, just the silhouette of something long-limbed and hunched, landing with a muffled thud before vanishing into the undergrowth. You hit the gas harder than you meant to. The van rockets forward, gravel spitting from behind the tires. Your breath isn't steady. Your hands aren't steady. Even the road feels less steady than a moment ago. The headlights slice through the forest corridor, revealing nothing but trees pressed too close together, their branches knitting into a canopy that steals the stars. As you speed through the darkness, your mind replays the same question over and over. How did it get on the roof without making a sound until it wanted to? But you don't get far, because after only a few minutes, the road curves, dips, and you see headlights ahead. A vehicle, stopped in the middle of the road. You slow, heart jumping. It's that same old blue van you passed earlier. The one with the fogged windows. The cracked driver door. The blanket half out the side. Except now, the blanket is gone. Completely gone. The door is open wider. A little too wide. Like something forced it from the inside. You pull up slowly, giving yourself distance. Your headlights illuminate the interior through the open door. The seats are torn. The overhead light flickers weakly, and the entire inside looks disturbed, like someone rummaged frantically, searching for a way out. You whisper, "Please don't make me get out." You absolutely have no intention of stepping foot outside. It's a firm boundary. A mental no entry sign has been posted, laminated, and approved by the Department of Self-Preservation. But then you notice something. The rear window of the van has writing on it. At first, it looks like streaks of dirt, or condensation, or scratches. But when you lean a little closer, squinting through your own windshield, you see words. Smudged, uneven words, drawn with a trembling finger. IT like light. Your breath catches. You flick your own headlights to high beam. Instinct, fear, hope. The forest ahead lights up like a stage. Branches, leaves. The road stretching into the dark. Nothing else. You look back at the message. The writing on the blue van's window isn't smeared in condensation. It's smeared in dust, thick dust, dust that settles over time. Meaning, this message wasn't written tonight. You feel a cold, sinking dread pool in your stomach. Whoever wrote it might have known exactly what was stalking you. Might have seen it. Might have tried to warn anyone who drove through here. You put the van back in drive. You do not linger. You do not think about the implications. But as you pass the abandoned van, something in your peripherals catches your eye. The passenger side door, the one facing the forest, has long, parallel marks down the metal. Not scratches, not keys, not claws, more like fingers. 4 of them, pressed so hard they bent the metal. You press your foot harder on the accelerator. The forest whips by, the road twisting. Your headlights shimmer across the trunks, occasionally catching glimpses of open space beyond the trees. Then, your stomach drops, because suddenly the forest breaks open, and you find yourself rolling into a clearing you absolutely, definitely should not be seeing again. The same intersection. For the 3rd time. The crooked sign stands where it always stands. Tilted. Mocking. But now you notice something else. Someone is standing beside it. A human shape. Still. Facing you. You slam the brakes. Your van skids slightly. The figure doesn't react. You feel your throat tighten as you lean slightly toward the wheel, trying to see the face in the headlights. But the figure steps backward into the trees. One slow step, then gone. You sit there, stunned. And then, your passenger side window fogs up. From the outside, and a single fingertip begins to drag across the glass. You let the engine idle for a moment, listening to its uneven purr, the kind that always sounds a little too much like a tired animal trying to warn you about something. The headlights carve out 2 pale tunnels in the night, the beams catching fluttering moths and the occasional drifting speck of dust. But beyond that, only the pressed-in darkness of a place that doesn't care you exist. You keep telling yourself it's just a park, just big trees, big sky, big quiet. But the longer you stay here, the more it feels like a giant, unblinking thing that doesn't mind swallowing people whole. When you finally put the van in gear and roll forward, your eyes flick again toward the patch of forest where you thought you saw the man's shape, whatever it was. Nothing moves now. Just still trunks, still brush, still shadows layered like curtains. You almost laugh, almost, because if this were one of those cheap horror shorts online, there'd be a perfectly framed silhouette behind your van right about now. But you don't look in the rearview mirror. You decide that tonight you're adopting a healthy lifestyle choice called refusing to confirm anything creepy exists. The gravel crunches under your tires as you drift farther down the small service road. Your fingers tap lightly on the steering wheel, an old nervous habit, and your breath fogs faintly in the chilled air. You tell yourself you'll drive until you find a pull-off that feels a little less cursed. But as the minutes stretch on, the roads don't look familiar, and you definitely don't pass any signs, even though you're pretty sure there were signs earlier. You check your phone again. No bars. You open the GPS app anyway out of sheer hope, and it loads a smear of grey, nothing with a blinking dot in the middle that might as well be labelled "You are absolutely screwed." Even the little compass spins like it's drunk. A twig snaps somewhere out in the woods, loud enough that you jump even though the sound doesn't come from close to you. It echoes off the trees, sharp and clean, like something stepping deliberately on a thick branch. Not breaking the small stuff, not crunching leaves, just one big, heavy step. The kind of sound that suggests a weight. You try to dismiss it as wildlife. You're in a national park after all. But you've been out here long enough to know what deer sound like, or elk, or coyotes, or those weird foxes that scream like someone getting murdered over a bad Wi-Fi connection. This wasn't any of those. This was singular, slow, like something marking its presence. Relax, you mutter to yourself under your breath, because no one else is around to give you a pep talk. Everything's fine. Nature is just loud. The van doesn't seem convinced. The interior vibrates slightly, like it's shivering. Finally, you find a small clearing, a tight, slanted patch of dirt just wide enough to fit. You pull in, shut the lights off, and let the night swallow you. Immediately, the world becomes impossibly dark. Not the gentle camping kind of dark. More like the light has been stolen from the air. And then, as your eyes adjust, you notice something faint. A glow, very weak, very distant, moving between the trees far deeper in the forest, back the way you came. At first, you think it must be a ranger's flashlight, but it doesn't behave like a flashlight beam. It doesn't arc or sway the way someone's arm might move. It glides, steady, smooth. And then it splits. One faint glow becomes two. The lights drift side by side, then cross over each other, like two tiny orbs weaving patterns in the dark. You blink hard, leaning forward, trying to decide if this is one of those optical illusions your eyes make up when they don't have enough light to work with. But the lights continue, drifting silently, almost rhythmically. And you know, rangers don't carry two floating orbs. Wildlife doesn't glow like that, and headlights don't float through dense trees without casting shadows. Your hand reaches for the keys. You don't remember deciding to do that, but your body apparently has opinions about glowing orbs in haunted forests. Then you hear breathing. Not yours. Not close. But not far either. A slow, pushing exhale that sounds like it passes through something thick, wet almost, like breath straining through a damaged throat. You freeze. Every muscle in you goes rigid, and suddenly the air feels sharper. It takes several seconds for you to realize the breathing isn't coming from outside the van. It's drifting through the trees, somewhere near the floating lights. A part of you whispers that you should start the engine, back out, leave the park, drive until sunrise, maybe 2 sunrises, 3 even. Van life is flexible like that. But another part of you, the part that's half curious and half terrified, stays still and listens, because the breathing is rhythmic, measured, almost purposeful. And something about that terrifies you even more. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. Time feels soft around the edges, and eventually the lights fade away deeper into the forest. The breathing quiets. The woods return to their oppressive stillness. You let out a long breath you didn't realize you'd been holding. You think about that cheeky warning from earlier. You probably won't survive this, and you're starting to think it wasn't cheeky enough. Still, you try to sleep. You rearrange your bedding, fluff your pillow, and wedge yourself into your usual van cocoon. You even joke under your breath. If anything's out there, wait until morning, okay? Office hours only. And because you're exhausted, your eyes finally flutter closed. But the forest doesn't sleep. Not tonight. Because right as you start drifting, right as that gentle heaviness pulls at your thoughts, you hear something that sends a cold line of fear straight down your spine. Soft, slow footsteps, crunching leaves, circling your van. One careful step at a time. Not rushing, not testing, just observing. And you cannot bring yourself to look. Not yet. Not when whatever it is clearly already knows exactly where you are. Your breath stays shallow, your eyelids tremble, and outside something drags lightly across the metal of the van, just a fingertip or a nail or something imitating one, testing the shape, tracing the outline. Then silence. Absolute silence. Which is somehow worse. You lie still for a long time, counting your heartbeats, waiting for the next noise, the next scrape. But it doesn't come. The forest holds its breath with you. And you know, deep down, in that place where instinct whispers truths your mind doesn't want to consider, that whatever walked around your van didn't wander off. It just stopped moving. Somewhere close. Listening. Waiting. And you are absolutely not ready for what happens when you finally open your eyes. Your eyes stay shut for what feels like centuries, but your body is starting to betray you with tiny tremors of adrenaline. Every survival instinct you've inherited from all your ancestors. Yes, even the ones who probably survived by running away from weird glowing forest orbs, is awake and screaming. You know, in that deep, primal way, that the moment you willingly move, whatever is out there will know too. But staying still isn't sustainable. Your muscles ache. Your lungs keep asking why your rationing air like the night is about to charge you rent for breathing. Finally, you blink your eyes open. Slow, careful, barely lifting the lids. just enough to peer through the faint glow of your van's dim nightlight. Because yes, you caved and left that little LED strip on, even though it makes you feel slightly like a coward. A coward who wants to live. The interior looks the same. Blankets, pillows, scattered notebooks, your water bottle tipped on its side. Ordinary, comforting. A tiny, lived-in bubble that still smells faintly of coffee and dusty upholstery. And for several seconds, you let yourself believe you imagined everything. That the footsteps were just branches falling. That the scraping was a pine cone rolling against the metal siding. That you didn't actually see floating lights weaving between the trees. Then you hear it again. Not footsteps this time. A soft tap. Right against the rear door. One single, deliberate tap, like a knuckle, or something trying to mimic a knuckle. Your blood goes cold. The sound doesn't repeat. It just hangs there, suspended like a warning. Your breathing picks up again, and you silently mouth, "Nope," because sometimes the most sophisticated survival strategy is denial. You inch your hand toward your phone. Maybe it magically regained service while you slept. Maybe you can open maps again. Maybe the tiny glowing dot will finally show a way out of this forest that gets creepier by the hour. You flick it on. Still no signal. But the screen's glow illuminates something you didn't expect, the condensation on the rear windows. Not strange by itself, breath and temperature changes do that. But on the left side, someone, or something, has drawn a long vertical line through the fog. A finger dragged down the glass. Recently. Fresh. You stare at it, frozen, your heart slamming against your ribs. Then just below that line, another mark forms. Right in front of you. From the outside. The fog shifts in a smooth downward stroke. Something is drawing on the window, slow and steady, as if it knows you're watching. You jerk up so fast you smack your head on the roof, which is humiliating, but not your biggest problem at the moment. You scramble to the driver's seat, legs tangling in blankets, heart pounding hard enough you genuinely wonder if the van can hear it. You don't dare look at the back window again. You don't need to. You already know something is standing right there. Too close. Close enough to draw. Close enough to breathe. Your hands shake as you shove the key into the ignition. The engine coughs. Stutters. You whisper, "Come on, don't do this to me," in the softest, most desperate ASMR voice of your life. The van gives one more wheeze and then roars to life, louder than it should, like even the engine is panicking. As the headlights flare on, something moves in the distance between the trees. You don't see what it is. Just the shape. Tall. Really tall. And it steps backward into the darkness, like it's avoiding the light. Not running away. Just retreating enough to stay unseen. Your hand slams the gear shift. You peel out of that clearing, gravel spitting behind you. Your eyes flick between the road and the mirrors, but each time you glance at the rear view, part of you expects to see something enormous sprinting after you, silent and fast. But nothing follows. Not yet. The forest road feels different this time, though. Not like a path leading you somewhere, but like a path letting you leave. As if the woods are watching. As if this place is deciding. You keep driving. Past the twisted trees. past the places where the darkness hangs too thick, past one sign you swear wasn't there earlier, a weather-beaten wooden board with flaking paint and the vague outline of a ranger emblem. Something about it makes your stomach twist. You can't read the text as you fly by, but you catch a glimpse of the faded letters. CLEID zone, no camping. No stopping. No staying after dark. Nice, lovely. That would have been useful 8 hours ago. You keep moving. The road eventually widens, curves and straightens. Your breath slowly evens out. You loosen your grip on the wheel, though your shoulders remain decades older than the rest of your body. Finally, after what feels like a long, trembling eternity, you spot a small pull-off near a creek. It looks safer, more open, less haunted by tall things who draw in condensation. The moment you park and turn off the engine, the silence rushes in around you. But this silence feels normal, soft, like nature, not a predator's patience. You let your head drop against the wheel. You stay like that for a long time, breathing in, breathing out, reminding yourself you're alive. For now. Eventually, you shift back into the living space, collapse onto your bedding, and let exhaustion creep through your limbs like warm sand. You're too drained to even overthink, too tired to be clever, too spent to worry about whatever watched your van earlier. Your eyelids slip downward. Just before sleep pulls you under, you mutter, half dazed, half sarcastic. If anything else wants to terrify me tonight, take a number. But nothing answers. Only the creek murmurs outside, steady and calming. And for the first time since entering the park, your mind begins to soften at the edges. And you drift, finally, into sleep, unaware that dawn will bring its own brand of terror, and the park is far from finished with you. You wake to a light so soft and gold it feels like it was poured gently over the world rather than risen from it. Morning sunlight filters through the thin curtains of your van, turning everything warm, your blankets, your breath, even the dust drifting lazily in the air. For a moment, you don't move. You let your mind cling to that half-dreaming state where nothing from last night exists. Where the woods are just woods, and the only thing circling your van is a gentle breeze with good intentions and maybe some pollen. But then your eyes open fully, and you remember. The tapping, the footsteps, the marks dragged in the condensation. Your stomach tightens. You sit up slowly, every muscle stiff from a night spent in defensive mode. You glance toward the back window, the one where something traced a line with unnatural patience. The glass is cleared now, the morning warmth evaporating whatever was left. No marks remain, no fingerprints, no evidence. Which somehow makes it worse. You slide open the side door, letting the crisp air in, and step outside. The creek gurgles quietly along the rocks nearby, sunlight sparkling across the surface. It looks normal, peaceful, the kind of scene van life influencers would pretend is an everyday thing while carefully cropping out the part where they spent half the night nearly crying into a mug of chamomile tea. You stretch, trying to shake the tension from your shoulders and force yourself to look around the clearing. No footprints, no signs of a giant night stalker, not even branches disturbed in a meaningful way. just the quiet rustle of trees waking up with the wind. You remind yourself you need to keep moving. Whatever happened last night wasn't random. It wasn't a trick of the dark. Something walked your van. Something tall enough to cast a shape in the headlights, but quiet enough to melt into the forest without so much as a snapped twig afterward. That means it knew how to move out here. And that means it could find you again. You pack your gear faster than usual. No morning coffee ritual today. No leisurely journaling about the serenity of nature or the spiritual joy of living minimally. Just you, shoving your bedding into a half-folded pile and making sure nothing is left behind. But when you close the van door, something catches your eye. On the dirt near your tire is a single stone, smooth, flat, almost polished, and placed upright, balanced in a way that wind or chance could never achieve, as if someone or something set it there intentionally. A marker, a message, a reminder. You don't touch it, you can't make yourself. You just get into the driver's seat, lock the doors, and start the engine. As you pull out of the clearing, your hands shake again. Not violently, not enough to stop you from driving, just enough to remind you that your instincts are still buzzing with fear. The deeper you go, the more the morning feels wrong. The sun is bright, but the forest seems dim. The air feels heavy, like the atmosphere itself is watching you. And the road, well, calling it a road is generous. It narrows, bends, forks in ways your map never mentioned. You take a left at one split, then a right, then another right, trying to follow what you think is the route back towards civilization. But every turn feels vaguely wrong, as if the forest is nudging you along a path it prefers. Eventually, you slow down, frowning, because you see something ahead. Something off. A signpost. Tall, wooden, the paint peeling after too many winters. You pull closer, and the pit in your stomach drops out completely. Because you've seen this sign before. CLEID zone, no camping. No stopping. No staying after dark. You drove past it last night. You're going in circles. You rub your forehead, an exhausted laugh slipping out. Oh, great, perfect, just what I needed. A haunted national park with a built-in carousel feature. But as you stare at the sign, you notice something new. Under the peeling paint, carved faintly into the wood, are tally marks. Not neat ones. Desperate ones. 16 of them. Deep gouges, as if someone scraped them in with a shaking hand, and whatever tool they had on them at the time. You step out of the van slowly, half afraid the trees will close in when your feet touch the ground. You run your fingers lightly over one of the carved marks. The wood around it is splintered, fresh, as if someone carved it recently. You take a step back, then another, and that's when you see it. At the base of the sign, boot prints, a single set, leading into the woods. But here's the part that freezes you entirely. The prints don't sink evenly. They sink deeper at the toes, like someone was being dragged forward, or walking unwillingly. You stand there a long moment, your breath stuck, your heartbeat thrumming in your ears. The forest is completely silent. Even the birds seem to be holding their breath. You turn slowly, scanning the tree line. And for a moment, just a fraction of a heartbeat, you see something shift between the pines. Tall, too tall, swaying slightly, like it's leaning, watching. You jump back into the van, slam the door, and peel away so fast you kick half the clearing into the air behind you. As the van rattles down the battered road, you mutter, "Okay, yeah, cool. The park rearranging itself at night wasn't enough. We're doing daylight horror now. Great. Amazing. Can't wait to leave you a 1-star review." But despite the sarcasm, dread coils through your chest. Because the road ahead looks unfamiliar again. And the deeper you go, the more you realize the forest isn't just watching you. It's guiding you. Somewhere you absolutely don't want to go. The road tightens like a throat swallowing you deeper, and your van feels suddenly too small for how much fear you're carrying. Every twist in the dirt path feels intentional, like the park is folding itself around you, nudging you, narrowing your options. You keep driving because you don't know what else to do. There's no shoulder to turn around, no junction to choose a different direction, no cell service, no landmarks, just trees. Thousands upon thousands of trees, leaning inward like an audience, waiting for your next mistake. Eventually, the canopy thickens overhead, turning the morning gold into a muted green. Shadows pool in the spaces between trunks, long and heavy. You slow the van, partly to avoid smashing into a fallen branch, partly because the silence is thick enough to convince you something is waiting, listening. Then the forest opens unexpectedly. A meadow. You blink, surprised. The change is abrupt, like stepping from one world into another. Tall grass ripples in a slow breeze, dotted with yellow wildflowers and patches of sunlight. It's beautiful, weirdly beautiful. The kind of place hikers would post about online with captions like, "Nature really heals your soul's smiling sparkles," while conveniently excluding details about supernatural night visitors. You inch forward and stop at the edge, letting the engine idle. The air smells sweeter here, warm grass, sun-baked roots, the faint mineral scent of nearby water. A small footpath cuts through the meadow, leading toward a cluster of old structures in the distance. At first, they look like cabins. Ranger cabins, maybe. A hope flickers. Human-made structures mean people. People mean help. Help means getting the heck out of this park before you start adding your own tally marks to the signpost. You park at the meadow's edge and step out, stretching cautiously, scanning for anything tall or glowing or breathing like it's rehearsing for a horror podcast. Nothing moves. No strange footprints. No orbs drifting lazily around like budget-friendly UFOs. The silence, though, still pressing, still waiting, still aware of you. You walk toward the cabins. Birds chirp faintly in the distance. Grass whispers around your legs. For a moment, everything feels so normal you almost let yourself relax. Then you see the first cabin up close. It's not abandoned. It's collapsed. Caved-in roof, rotting beams, windows smashed outward as if something inside blasted through them. The door hangs by a single hinge, barely clinging to the frame. Moss climbs the sides like it's reclaiming the wood plank by plank. Your hope plummets a little. You approach the next cabin. Same condition. Roof buckled, walls warped, layers of dust thick enough to bury footprints from any previous visitors. Visitors who apparently didn't survive long enough to leave a review, let alone clear the place. The third cabin is worse. The walls lean inward like a giant hand crushed the structure. The inside is dark and cold, and you swear you smell something metallic. Old blood, rust. You tell your imagination to calm down, but your imagination does not listen. You step back, deciding the cabin tour is cancelled. Then something glints near the tall grass behind the collapsed buildings. Metal. You hesitate, then move closer, brushing away strands of grass until you uncover a license plate. Weathered, bent, rusting at the corners. You flip it over, your hands trembling before you even know why. Scratched into the back are letters, shallow, uneven, carved by someone with shaking hands or a dull tool. Help. Still here. Your voice catches in your throat. A cold ripple sweeps down your spine. You back away from the plate like it's alive, like it might whisper something if you stare too long. The grass rustles behind you. You whirl. Nothing there. Just the meadow stretching gently in all directions, sunlight shimmering on the tips of wildflowers. But the feeling, the sensation of someone watching, intensifies. A slow, concentrated pressure between your shoulder blades. You force yourself to breathe. You tell yourself it's just nerves, just fear, just your overactive brain. But deep down, you know it's something else. You take a shaky step backward toward the van. Then another. The meadow stays quiet. Too quiet. At the halfway point back, the wind shifts, and the scent that hits you is not flowers, not grass, not forest. It's the thick, stale smell of something that hasn't moved in a long time. Something not alive. Your feet don't wait for permission. They break into a run, crunching through the grass, lungs burning as you sprint toward the van. You don't look left. You don't look right. You don't look behind you. The van is your lifeline. You slam the door, lock it, and fire the engine so hard the whole vehicle jerks. As you peel away, the grass waves calmly behind you, serene and innocent, giving no hint of what scent the wind carried. You keep driving. But the road ahead no longer feels random. It feels chosen. Direct. As if you're being led. The trees grow taller again, leaning closer, forming natural archways. Ferns spread wide across the forest floor, their fronds trembling with each vibration of the van. You swear some of them shift as you pass, as if following the motion of your wheels. Minutes blur into an uneasy stretch of quiet. Then the van jolts. Hard. You slam on the brake. The vehicle shudders to a stop. You sit still, breathing heavy, hands clenched around the wheel. Because ahead, blocking the road, is something you absolutely did not expect. A ranger station. Fully intact. And the front door is wide open. Not broken. Not weathered. Just open. inviting you in. You wipe your palms on your pants, trying to decide if this is salvation or a trap, with excellent customer service presentation. Either way, you know you can't ignore it. Because someone, or something, wanted you to find this place. And that might be the only reason you're still alive. The hallway lights flickered again, longer this time, stretching each shadow across the floor like black, grasping fingers. You froze mid-step, listening. There it was again, that soft, deliberate tapping. Not random, not accidental, footsteps, small ones, moving just out of sight. Slowly, the sound circled behind you, as if the thing making it knew exactly how to stay out of your peripheral vision. Your breath grew shallow. You could feel the weight of a presence, the cold attention of something that wanted you to know it was there yet refused to be seen. A soft creak came from the living room, the same creak that always happened when someone stepped on the old wooden panel near the couch. You hadn't walked there. No one had. But something had shifted its weight just enough to announce itself. Your phone buzzed in your pocket, vibrating against your leg with a suddenness that nearly made you drop. When you looked at the screen, you felt your stomach twist. It was a notification from the baby monitor, except you didn't have a baby and you didn't own a monitor. The preview image was nothing but darkness, until something pale moved across the frame. Then slowly the image brightened as if someone, or something, was adjusting the exposure from inside the room. The grainy picture sharpened just enough for you to make out a small silhouette near the doorframe, child-sized, motionless, facing the camera. And then it tilted its head. The air in the house didn't settle after that moment. If anything, it felt thicker, like something was holding its breath, waiting for you to move first. You stood there, staring at the monitor screen, the still image frozen on that small, wrong-sized figure in your doorway. But the real doorway behind you was empty. That was somehow worse. You felt the urge to check every room, not because you thought it would help, but because not knowing made your skin crawl. The house creaked behind you as if acknowledging your decision. The floorboards weren't old, but they acted like they had memories you didn't share. You stepped into the hallway. It was colder there, noticeably, unnaturally. Your breath didn't fog, but you felt like it should have. Halfway down the hall, you heard it. A soft, quick scuffle, like bare feet brushing wood. Not running. Not walking. Scurrying. It came from the guest room. The door was slightly ajar, even though you knew you left it fully open. It tilted inward just enough to reveal a narrow strip of darkness, untouched by the hallway light. You reached for the switch. Clicked it. Nothing. The bulb inside didn't even attempt to flicker. It stayed dead, like the room had swallowed the electricity whole. Your fingers tightened around the door's edge as you pushed it open a few inches more. The darkness inside didn't move, but something else did. A tiny shadow, low to the ground, darted behind the bed so quickly you almost questioned if you'd seen it at all. Except you heard the patter, unmistakable, soft, weightless. You froze. Because the sound wasn't coming from behind the bed anymore. It was right beside your foot. Then under the bed. Then A whisper. Not words. Not breath. Just the shape of sound, like something practicing how to speak, but failing every syllable. You stepped back, heart hammering, but the whisper followed, sliding across the floor like a draft carrying a voice that didn't belong to anyone alive. The baby monitor in your pocket buzzed. You looked down. The screen had changed. It wasn't showing the doorway anymore. It was showing under your bed. The same shadow. The same size. The same tilt of the head. But now it was smiling. Except the smile didn't look learned. It looked copied, like it had seen someone do it, and tried to rearrange its face the same way, without understanding why humans smile at all. The monitor crackled. And then, in a voice stretched too thin to be real, "Sao, your throat tightened. Because whatever was learning to speak. Was learning to speak your name next. You don't remember making the decision to move. Your body just acted before your mind caught up. 1 second you were staring at that warped little smile on the monitor, and the next you were stepping backward into the hall, gripping the screen like it was a lifeline. But the house didn't like that. The air pressure shifted again, sharp, sudden, like every room inhaled at once. The door to the guest room eased shut behind you with a slow, deliberate click. Not a slam. Not a drift. Just a quiet, intentional no. Your skin prickled. You hated how familiar the feeling was becoming. You turned the monitor back on. Static just for a moment, then the camera feed snapped into focus. But the angle was different again. Not the doorway. Not under the bed. This time the camera was somehow pointed upward, as if lying flat on the floor, tilted slightly, catching only the edge of a child-sized face pressed low to the ground. Watching something. Watching you. The eye closest to the camera blinked, too slow, too heavy, dragging the eyelid down like it had to remember how eyelids worked. You whispered under your breath, "Nope, nope, nope." A little joke for your own survival. A little denial to keep your legs functioning. You turned off the screen, as if that would unsee anything. You went for the back door, because logic had left the chat at this point. The living room stretched in front of you dim. Uneven shadows pooled in spots that should have been evenly lit by the overhead track lights. You clicked the switch. Half the bulbs stayed dark. Great, wonderful, love that for you. You moved forward anyway, because staying still felt like volunteering to be prey. And as you crossed the center of the room, something changed. The hum. The house's soft electrical hum. A thing you never notice until it's gone, cut out. Not dimmed. Not flickered. Just ceased. Silence took its place. Complete, heavy, smothering. Your pulse felt louder than your footsteps. Then a sound broke through that silence. A small, rhythmic tapping. Slow, hollow. Coming from the kitchen. Tap. 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 You knew that sound. It was the sound of fingertips drumming on the wooden table. Except these taps were spaced too far apart. Too cautious. Like whoever, or whatever, was tapping had never tapped before and was experimenting with it. You edged closer, swallowing hard, feeling every instinct you've ever had screaming in the back of your skull. As you reached the doorway to the kitchen, the tapping stopped instantly. Not naturally. Not gradually. Like someone had frozen mid-motion the moment you got close. You peeked inside. Nothing at the table. Nothing by the counter. Then the overhead light flickered once, twice, and stayed on. The room was empty. You exhaled shakily, way too soon. Because as you stepped into the kitchen, you felt something brush lightly across the back of your ankle. A flutter. A graze. Like tiny fingers testing texture. And then, from under the table, came a tiny, practiced whisper. Wat King. You staggered back, knocking into the fridge, breath caught somewhere between terror and a swear you refused to say out loud. Your hands shook as you lifted the monitor again. It turned on by itself, and the feed showed the space under your kitchen table. Empty. Then something crawled into view, too quick, too low, too wrong. Not walking. Not standing. Crawling. Its limbs bent at angles that suggested it was still deciding how human joints were supposed to function. And slowly, the small shadow raised its head toward the camera. As the live feed audio picked up a faint, crackling giggle. Not joyful. Not playful. Just curious. Curious about you. The giggle doesn't stop when you lower the monitor. If anything, it gets clearer once the screen is no longer in front of your face, like whatever was under your table didn't need the device anymore to reach you. You freeze back, still pressed to the fridge, lungs locked tight. For a moment, there's no movement. No brushing against your ankle. No shifting of shadows. Just that quiet giggle tapering off, like a music box winding down. You force yourself to look beneath the table. There's nothing. Just 4 chairs, and the floor you definitely swept last week. You take one breath, one stupid, hopeful breath, thinking maybe the thing scuttled away. Maybe you imagined the fingers on your skin, maybe. A sound snaps that hope clean in half. A tiny inhale. Right above your head. You shoot your gaze upward. Atop the fridge, less than a foot from your face, something crouches. Small. Still. Watching you with a tilt of its head that's too sharp, too deliberate. It's the size of a toddler, but its limbs are too long, its torso too thin, as though it grew in the wrong order and tried to disguise the mistake with posture. Its skin looks pale, but not like human pale, more like something that's been living under a rock for 100 years. And its eyes, they're wide, curious, bright with a shine that doesn't reflect the kitchen light, but rather absorbs it. Its fingers, 7 of them on each hand, long and pointed, cling to the edge of the fridge door as though it's testing how gripping works. The thing leans closer. Not aggressively. Just curious. Just learning you. You don't scream. You don't breathe. Your mind is so overwhelmed, it's whispering denial, like a broken record. The creature opens its mouth slowly, trying again to shape a word. Its jaw is shaky. Its lips don't move in the right order. And then, in a voice that sounds like a child imitating speech from far away, "You're wacky, no." You don't wait for it to finish. Your legs finally decide to rejoin the conversation, and you bolt toward the back door, feet slamming the floor, heart smashing your ribs with enough force to bruise. Every shadow in the house seems to jump as you pass, as if reacting to your motion, as if the entire space is aware of you running. The door handle refuses to turn at first. Of course it does, because fear loves adding insult to injury. You twist harder. It clicks open. Cold night, air rushes in like mercy. You step out onto the deck, and the night lights strung above don't turn on. They should have. They're always automatic. Instead, the darkness around the house dips deeper, thick enough that even the trees lining the yard look two-dimensional, like silhouettes cut from darker shadow. You look back at the kitchen door. The creature is no longer on the fridge. The kitchen is empty. You should run. You should absolutely run. But your van keys are inside. And your van, the only thing that ever felt like home, is sitting in the driveway like a lifeline you can't reach. The kitchen light flickers hard enough to buzz. You take one step toward the door. Before you can touch the handle, the baby monitor in your hand lights up. A new angle. New feed. It's showing the backyard. Your backyard. And your own figure, your own silhouette, standing on the deck in real time. Except something else is behind you on the screen. Something small, rising from the shadow at your feet. Stretching upward. Clinging to your outline like a second, darker shape, learning how to mimic your posture. The audio crackles. A breath. A quiet, trembling attempt at a word. Harry. You drop the monitor. You don't look behind you. You run. Down the deck steps. Across the yard. Toward the van. Heart firing on every cylinder you didn't know you had. But halfway there, you stop, because the van's headlights flick on by themselves. Both at once. Bright. Blinding. Then they blink. Once. Twice. Like a signal. Like something inside wants your attention. And then, in the front passenger seat, something sits up. Slowly. Its head brushing the sun visor as it tilts toward you. You stop so fast, your shoes skid in the damp grass. Your breath fogs the air in a shaky cloud you don't remember pulling in. The van's headlights drown the yard in harsh white, flattening every shadow except the one sitting inside the cab. The shape in the passenger seat doesn't move at first. It just exists there, like it's been waiting for you longer than you've been alive, perfectly still, perfectly patient. Then its head tilts. Not softly, not curiously, but with an almost mechanical jolt. A too fast, too precise turn that snaps your nerves like frayed wires. You take one involuntary step backward. That movement seems to signal something. The passenger door lock clicks open. A soft, tiny sound. Harmless on its own. Terrifying in context. The thing inside shifts, and the interior light flicks on overhead. You wish it hadn't, because in the glow, you see it clearly for the first time. The creature is sitting upright, small frame strapped by the seatbelt, as if it's mimicking human behavior it's only ever observed from a distance. Its skin is pale, but not from lack of sun. More like the color hasn't decided what it should be yet. Its face is unfinished, features stretched slightly wrong, like someone sculpted it from memory and ran out of time halfway through. Its hands rest on its lap. 7 fingers, each tapping softly. A quiet, irregular rhythm. Tap, pause. Tap, tap. Tap. As though it's still trying out that new trick. Your throat tightens. Because it looks expectant. It looks like it wants you to approach. The headlights brighten, humming, as though the van itself is breathing. The engine isn't running, but the whole vehicle seems alive, charged with an energy that wasn't there a moment ago. You whisper, "No, absolutely not," because bravery died somewhere around the moment you saw it on top of your fridge. You step away from the van, planning to circle around and sprint for the road, even if it means running blind into the forest. You don't make it far. A rustling sound erupts from the tree line behind you, fast, frantic, and multiplied. Not one thing moving. Many. Branches shake. Leaves scatter. Something small darts between trunks, too quick to track, too low to be a deer, too silent to be anything natural. Your jaw clenches as you turn, slowly, carefully, trying not to make a sound. At first, you see nothing. Then shapes appear. Small shapes. Crouched shapes. Shapes the size of children, but wrong in every possible proportion. They gather at the edge of the yard like a crowd of shadows testing their boundary lines. Their heads tilt at different angles, uncoordinated, like they learn the motion separately and stitched it together later. Your pulse pounds in your ears. Too loud. Too human. One of the shapes creeps forward into the moonlight, and you see its face, blanker than the one in the van, less developed, like an early draft. Its limbs bend like wet branches. It takes a step, another, then stops, almost politely, waiting for you to acknowledge it. The creature in the van shifts again. The headlights flick twice, and from the forest line, in a chorus of almost learned voices, "Harry." Your knees nearly give out. You back toward the porch, not because the house feels safe anymore, but because being surrounded definitely doesn't. Every inch of the yard feels alive now, humming with movement you can't fully see. Then the van's engine roars to life. No keys. No one touching it. Just waking. The creature in the passenger seat presses a palm to the window, its two long fingers splaying wide, leaving faint prints as though its skin is softer than it looks. The sliding door on the side of the van begins to open. Slowly, deliberately. The interior lights spill out, warm gold against the cold night, and something shifts inside, deeper in the shadows of the cargo area. Something bigger. Something standing. And then, a voice. Not the creature's voice. Not the chorus from the trees. A human voice. Low. Hoarse. Coming from inside the van. Don't run. You freeze. Every muscle locks. Because you know that voice. You heard it earlier today. At the trailhead. The missing hiker. The man whose van used to sit abandoned 200 miles from here. The man rangers never found. His voice repeats, strained. Don't run, it follows. The creatures at the tree line lean forward, heads cocked in sync now, absorbing his words like instructions. You step back until your heel hits the bottom deck stair. And in the van doorway, the silhouette of the missing man steps into view. Or what's left of him. His posture is twisted. His spine bends in unnatural places. His arms hang too long, matching the creatures around him. But his face looks tormented, stretched between human expression and something else molding it. He reaches an arm out toward you and croaks. I'll let go. The creatures echo him softly. Let go. The night stands still, except for the thing crawling out behind him. Something taller. Much taller. The man's warped silhouette barely clears the doorframe before something else presses forward behind him. Something that has to hunch to fit inside the van at all. Its shape fills the interior from floor to ceiling, a mass of shifting darkness outlined only by the van's trembling lights. It doesn't crawl the way the smaller creatures do. It doesn't step like the half-finished figure in the passenger seat. It unfurls. A slow, dreadful stretching, like the night air condenses into limbs where limbs shouldn't exist. Long arms, far too long, extend first, tapering into spindly points that scrape gently across the van floor. A head follows, or what you assume is a head, a rounded form that seems to melt at the edges, constantly reshaping itself. The missing man stumbles aside, almost collapsing as he moves away from the thing behind him. His voice breaks in a strangled plea. They don't move. The towering thing tilts toward him, curious, and he flinches, but it doesn't strike. It just lowers its head, as if sniffing the back of his skull. He goes still, trembling in a way your body recognizes on a level deeper than fear. A level that knows submission. The creature's limbs fold inward again, a wet, unsettling sound, and then it lifts its head. Towards you. Your breath stutters. The air around your chest tightens like a fist. This thing hasn't spoken yet. It hasn't tried. It simply observes. The smaller creatures shift silently in the grass, their unfinished eyes reflecting moonlight like coins at the bottom of a well. They aren't approaching, and that's somehow worse. They're waiting, learning. The tall creature begins to emerge from the van. Its arms extend first, tip-tapping onto the gravel driveway with delicate precision. The points of its limbs dig into the ground like the legs of a spider testing new terrain. Its shoulders scrape the edges of the van door as it squeezes out, distorting its body, flattening and widening itself like it's not made of anything solid. Every instinct you have, human, animal, prehistoric, screams run. But the missing man shakes his head violently at you. D don't, is, said it follows. His voice cracks on the last word. The tall creature pauses halfway free of the van. Then, with a slow, trembling motion, it opens something like a mouth. Not a jaw, not lips, a tear. A long slit down the front of its head, stretching wider and wider, splitting the dark matter of its body open. Inside isn't a throat or teeth or anything that fits a name. Inside is only more darkness. Thicker, dense. A chamber of void humming with faint vibrations that rattle inside your ribcage like tinnitus made physical. Then, a sound comes out. Not a word. Not a mimicry. A resonance. Low. Deep. So low you feel it before you hear it. The smaller creatures respond instantly. They bow. Not dramatically, more like grass bending in wind. Subtle, soft, uniform. The man in the doorway bows too, spine cracking audibly as he tries to mimic their posture. His voice slips out in a terrified whisper. Don't let it take your shape. Your heart nearly stops, because the tall thing is stretching again. But this time, its head tilts in the same curious angle you use when trying to listen. Its body narrows, reshaping from the center outward like a sculptor tugging at clay. It's copying you, studying you, trying you on. You stagger backward up the deck steps, hand sliding on the railing. Every creature in the yard turns its head in perfect sync, tracking your movement. This is the moment where flight takes over thought. You turn. You dash to the back door. You grab the handle and shove it open. But the kitchen is wrong. Lights flicker like dying fireflies. Cabinets hang open. The fridge door stands wide, like something climbed out instead of in. In the center of the floor sits the baby monitor. Not where you dropped it outside. Here, inside, placed carefully. The screen lights up. Not with the van. Not with the yard. Not with underbed shadows. It shows you, standing in the doorway. Except the you on the screen is smiling. Wide, vacant, crooked. A smile that's been practiced. A smile the small creatures tried first. Behind the smiling version of you, on the screen only. The tall creature rises up. towering, shaping itself, becoming more like you. Piece by piece, your breath shatters, your vision blurs. Outside, behind you, the tall creature's limbs scrape across the deck, slow, deliberate, testing its new balance. The smaller creatures whisper in unison. Zhare. The missing man screams something desperate, but it's swallowed by the night. You step back, pulse slamming through every bone. And as the tall creature leans through the doorway, its form now eerily, horribly close to your outline. Its unfinished voice tries its first human word. Your name. Warped. Smudged. Almost right. But not right enough. Not yet. The sound of your own name, bent, stretched, nearly human, locks your entire body in place. It feels like hearing your voice on a recording you never made. Wrong. Unfamiliar. Too close. The tall creature stands half inside the doorway, half outside, its shape flickering like it's buffering between versions of you. Its limbs swell and thin, correcting themselves, trying to match your exact proportions. Each small twitch looks painful, like imitation is a muscle it hasn't built yet. Behind it, the chorus of small creatures waits in the dark, heads all tilted the same precise angle, watching like students during a demonstration. The missing man stands among them, trembling, hunched at an impossible angle, his mouth hanging open as if he wants to scream but no longer remembers how. You stumble backward into the kitchen. The creature follows, not with footsteps. It extends, sliding forward on limbs that lengthen just enough to cover distance without lifting. The motion doesn't make sound, not even a whisper, and that silence is somehow more horrifying than any growl or hiss could ever be. Your voice escapes in a sudden, broken whisper. Stop, stay back. The creature tries to mirror your words. Its split mouth quivers. Its jaw reshapes. And then, SSSDB. It doesn't understand what the word means. It just knows you said it. The baby monitor on the floor crackles, alive again. The screen flickers with static, then clears, not to the van, not to the yard, not even to you. It shows the hallway. The dark hallway. The one behind you. And in that hallway, standing perfectly still, is another shape. Your shape. Your height. Your stance. Your silhouette. Only motionless. Head lowered. A cold rush sweeps through your stomach like gravity took a wrong turn. You jerk your gaze toward the actual hallway. It's empty, but the monitor shows your double still standing there, and slowly, slowly lifting its head. You hold your breath. The tall creature in front of you responds instantly to your stillness. It freezes too. Its limbs stop, reshaping mid-stretch. Its form wavers, like static caught between channels. It's waiting, reacting, computing you, like everything in this house now does. You edge toward the counter, slow enough not to trigger whatever instinct these things operate on. Your fingers brush the cool handle of the bottom drawer, the one where the flashlights are kept. You pull it open an inch. The tall creature's head whips toward the sound. A sudden, jerking movement that snaps every nerve you have. It leans in. Its face, your face, almost, hangs inches from yours. Skin unfinished. Eyes too wide. Dark matter quivering beneath a thin layer of imitation. It inhales. A long, shuddering breath. Like it's tasting your air. Your fingers close around the flashlight. You flip it on. A sharp white beam cuts through the room, and every creature screams without sound. The tall one recoils instantly, its face distorting like melting wax. The smaller ones at the tree line shriek in distorted, high-pitched static through the monitor's speaker. Even the broken shape of the missing man collapses to his knees, clutching his ears with two long fingers. Light hurts them. Actual light. Not the house lamps that flicker and die under their presence. But your light. Something not yet touched by whatever is eroding this place. You don't hesitate. You shine the beam directly into the tall creature's half-formed face. It stumbles backward. No grace, no mimicry, just raw panic. Its arms slap against the doorway frame, scraping long streaks into the wood. Its shape collapses in on itself, folding, distorting. An unearthly, muffled resonance rips from its chest. The same deep vibration you felt before, but now it wavers, unstable. Behind you, the monitor changes feeds again. Now it shows the van's interior. The passenger seat is empty. The driver's seat is occupied by something sitting perfectly upright, hands on the wheel, mirroring human posture with unsettling precision. Your posture, your hands, your hair, your outline, your double fully formed, turns its head toward the camera and smiles. The tall creature in your doorway convulses harder, its attempt at your shape faltering like it's losing a competition to something faster, more complete. Your flashlight beam shakes in your hand, sweeping wildly across its shifting features. But the creatures outside are regrouping. The small ones crawl onto the deck, not running from the light, simply avoiding it, slipping into the shadows with inhuman speed. The missing man drags himself forward, reaching an arm toward you, voice cracking open. Why you can't let it leave. You whip your head toward him. Why? What happens if it leaves? He chokes out a whisper. It takes everything you are, and everything you were, and everything you could be, and wears it. The tall creature shrieks again, silently, horribly, and its half shape of you collapses inward. Your double in the van reaches for the ignition. You hear the engine click. You spin toward the back door. You have a split second. One choice. Stop the thing in the doorway, or stop the one in the van. Either way, one of them is going to finish forming. Either way, one of them is going to replace you. And the house, the forest, the entire night leans closer, waiting to see which version of you they'll be taking. You don't remember moving. One moment you're staring at the curtain, and the next, you're standing in the hallway, breath shallow, hand pressed against the wall to steady yourself. The house feels different now. Not haunted, not quiet, but occupied. Every corner contains a weight, like something is leaning forward, listening. Your phone vibrates again. A single message from an unknown number. Stop turning around. You freeze, but you do it anyway, slow, hesitant. The hallway behind you is empty. At least it looks empty. Until you notice the faintest shape at the far end. Low to the ground, small still. Like a child sitting cross-legged. Watching you. You blink once. Twice. The shape tilts its head just slightly, as if acknowledging your fear. You whisper to yourself, "This isn't real. This isn't real." Then your phone buzzes again. It is. Your pulse hammers so loudly you swear the thing at the end of the hall can hear it. You take one step back, just one, and the shape uncurls. Not quickly, not aggressively, just unfolds. Two small hands press against the floor. A head lifts. Its movements are too smooth, too quiet, like joints that don't belong to flesh and bone. You stumble into the wall. Your phone lights up again. Another message, same unknown number. Don't run. You want to throw the phone, but your hand is locked tight around it. The figure shifts forward, inch by inch, gliding more than crawling. Your breath catches as you hear it. A soft wooden click with every movement. Like tiny joints snapping into new positions. Like a doll being adjusted. Your eyes sting. You're afraid to blink. Then, impossibly, the hallway light flickers. And for a split second, the shape is suddenly halfway down the hall. Much closer. Too close. The light steadies. The figure freezes again. Head cocked. Watching you with blank patience. Your phone buzzes. It likes when you watch back. You don't want to look at it. Every instinct in your body screams to shut your eyes, to hide, to pretend none of this is happening. But something deeper, older, colder, forces your gaze to stay locked on the small figure. It shifts again. Not forward this time. Up. One slow movement after another. It begins to stand. The joints in its legs unfold with a stiff, deliberate sequence. Click, 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 until it reaches its full height. It's child-sized, yes, but its proportions are wrong. Elongated arms. A head that doesn't sit naturally on its shoulders. Feet that point outward like it was never meant to walk the way a human does. You swallow hard. Your throat feels raw. The hallway air grows dense, almost too heavy to breathe. You sense, no, feel, that if you so much as whisper, the thing will rush you. Your phone vibrates again. Your hand trembles as you raise it. A new message. It's learning how you move. Your stomach drops. Another message arrives immediately after. Don't let it finish. The shape's head tilts. Slow. Curious. Mirroring the panic widening your eyes. It takes one careful step forward. Wooden. Measured. Awful. You gasp as you realize. It's stepping exactly the way you did earlier. You stumble backward before you even realize you've moved. Your heel skidding across the floor, your balance wobbling. And the figure, that awful, child-sized imitation of you, copies the motion a heartbeat later. A stuttering shuffle. A tiny wobble. A soft thud as its foot lands crookedly, learning your missteps with perfect precision. Your breath snags in your throat. The hallway feels shorter now, like the walls have leaned inward. The air is thick, almost syrupy, clinging to your skin as the creature studies you. Another message buzzes. Don't run. Running teaches its speed. You choke on a tiny, whispered curse. Because of course, that makes sense in some nightmare logic kind of way. Of course this thing learns. Of course it adapts. Your hand reaches blindly for the doorframe beside you. Fingertips brushing the wood. And the figure responds instantly. It lifts its hand too. But the movement is smoother this time. More confident. Like the hesitation it once had is melting away. Its fingers stretch, curling in a trembling mimicry of your grip. Your phone buzzes again. It's copying your strength now. Your knees weaken. You want to drop. You want to crawl. You want to evaporate. But you stay standing, barely, as the figure takes another step toward you. This one nearly perfect. Not clumsy. Not childish. Not burrowed. Owned. It tilts its head once more. And this time, you feel something brush the inside of your mind. A flicker. A taste. A burrowed thought that isn't yours. It's learning faster. Too fast. Your phone vibrates again. One final message. No number, no name. If it reaches you, it won't be learning anymore. It will be replacing. The thing lifts its foot. Takes one more step. Close enough now that you can hear the soft scrape of its heel. Your breath escapes in a trembling exhale as the lights flicker overhead and the hallway goes dark, leaving only the silhouette and the sound of it continuing to move. The darkness around you begins to loosen, as though the house itself exhales after holding its breath for far too long. The sharp edges of fear begin to round out, dulling, softening, fading into something distant. almost unimportant now. You feel the weight in your chest settle, not with dread, but with a slow, warm heaviness. That reminds you of sinking into deep, safe water. Every step the creature took, every shadow that reached toward you, all of it drifts further and further from the surface of your mind, like leaves carried away on a quiet stream. Your breathing steadies, longer now, slower, a gentle rhythm that your body remembers even when your thoughts are tired. You let that rhythm guide you, pull you down into a calm you've more than earned tonight. The house feels larger now, the hallways stretching out, not confining you, but holding you, supporting you. A cradle of empty rooms, quiet floors, and stillness that asks nothing from you except to rest. Even the presence you felt, that strange, watchful echo, seems to withdraw. Not defeated, not angry, simply fading like mist, returning to the cool earth before sunrise. Your shoulders loosen, your jaw softens, your mind drifts. You give yourself permission, finally, to let go of the last scraps of tension clinging to you. There's nothing left to fear here, nothing left to solve. Just a gentle pull downward, into warmth, into quiet, into sleep. Let your thoughts scatter wherever they want, light as dust in a sunbeam. Let your body settle exactly where it feels safe, and let yourself drift, slowly, sweetly, into the softest, deepest rest you've had in a long, long time.